modular electrolyzers, our ultimate goal has always been to bring down the cost of green hydrogen. And we do this by creating a smart, simple, and scalable product that can be applied to different applications across the world. We have a very, very strong focus on bringing this product into mass production. In fact, with our plans for expanding in Germany in 2023, we hope to have about 10,000 modules produced per year. However, Enapter can't achieve this goal by itself, and our partners, our system integration partners across the globe, are a very strong pillar of how we wish to bring down the costs of green hydrogen. So the theme for today's discussion will be energy storage using modular electrolyzers across the globe. And to have some of our partners here is really great. I'd like to introduce everybody here to Martina from Nilsson Energy in Sweden. We also have Zaid from Home Power Solutions in Berlin, in Germany, and joining us from India, Siddharth Mayur from H2E Power. This is going to be a platform for our partners to introduce themselves and get into a conversation about the different market overviews they see across the world. We hope to identify synergies and maybe even some contrasts of their different businesses across the globe. So I would now like to invite Martina to give a brief and an introductory talk to who Nilsson really is. Martina, please share your screen. Feel free to get started.
Thank you so much, Rohit. And let me just initiate this so I'll get my my slides up and running. Hang on.
You see your screen, and now it's in presentation mode. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity. Yes, my name is Martina Vetten. I'm one of the co-founders of Nilsson Energy, and we work as a system integrator, just like Prashad said. Situated in Sweden, so I'll be bringing in the Nordic perspective. Welcome to our headquarters, situated in the Hydrogen Dome, and it's an actual reality. We live in a greenhouse, and the fact that it's transparent is very important for us, because we all need to chip in and be transparent if we are to address green hydrogen and the so to say scale up and explosion of the industry. Situated in Gothenburg, Sweden, just joined forces with a new investor. I'm really happy to, long-term investor in the name of Connie Johnson, who is really long-term, and it's important for us because this will be the platform for growth and scale up. About Nilsson Energy, this is where it all started. Nilsson Energy is a tribute to my co-founder, Hans-Olof Nilsson. This is his home, and it also equals the living lab where we develop our system solutions. And it's an excellent opportunity to really try out new technology and be part of the bringing technology to the market so that it can be commercialized. So we've been doing that for, it was established back in 6 years ago, so it's been off-grid for about 6 years. This is the product line, RE8760, and that's always a tongue twister. But the 8760 stands for all the hours in the year, which means that we can go all the way through being completely off-grid, if that's appropriate and necessary. But what we really do is that we store renewable energy until it's needed. And it may seem as simple as that, but it takes a lot of understanding intermittent energy supply and also working with steering and optimization, not least from a safety perspective, because it needs to work seamlessly in all sorts of environments and under a number of different prerequisites. So it's important, it's just as important to understand data and all the ifs and buts. Now then, Nilsson Energy, established back in 2017, small company, been running like anything. Our motto has been action speaks louder than words. We do stuff, we bring things to the market and then we talk about it. So we were quite taken back by the fact that we were awarded the world's best gas and hydrogen brand last year. Feels very humbling very humbling indeed. But about action then, let me show a few things that we're doing currently. And with being a partner, I think somebody in the room recognized the electrolyser in the in the picture. This is a community that's it's called Hydrobust, and that stands for hydro being robust. So it's the sort of playing with words there. But it's a municipality where they decided to be more or less off-grid when it comes to the electricity, but also the provision of green hydrogen at site. So it's an example of what's happening as we speak, and this is being put into place this week and the following weeks. So that's happening. This is a site that's container-based, and it's container-based for a number of reasons, because we add flexibility, we add the ability to scale up and scale down. So this is an example of container-based decentralized production of green hydrogen for a filling station. So adjacent to it, you can't see it in this picture, I'm afraid, but is the provision of intermittent energy from solar. So it's the capacity of this is about 84,000 kilos annually, production of green hydrogen. But what you can't see is that one of the containers also contains battery and fuel cell technology, which means that you can also play with and work with the local grid. So the flexibility services that can be added into a complete system solution, I would really like to underline, and we see that in our market as being very relevant. This is a mock-up, and it shouldn't be really, because we are in full speed. We are integrating an R8760 system into a preschool in Sweden, and the fact that we are building a system with storage, quite substantial storage, in the middle of a built-up area in Sweden, it's been a journey. It's taken us 3 years to work with the red tape and security and safety and getting all of this in place. So really, really happy about this, and I think it will be an excellent showcase. Iterate, iterate, iterate. Yes, that's our DNA. And I would really like to underline the fact that we can do this, and we can do it together, and we need to reach out to each other and try and find the best solutions. If we combine our knowledge and our hardware and our software, we'll be able to make really, really interesting products that will scale. And it's important, and we should really have that. We should embrace that and try and do that as much as possible. Nilsson Energy is also very deeply involved in the establishment of infrastructure for green hydrogen for mobility, and under a different brand name, REH2, that might be other for you to know. And I'd like to leave you with this. The power of people and partnerships. We need to reach out, and we need to really be, this is the time where we are building relevant cooperation. It's gone very, very fast, and it's gone slowly. But I'd like to underline, and not from the bottom of Nilsson Energy's DNA and heart, that this is all about what we do. So please reach out, and we're happy to cooperate moving forward, so we can really, really scale together. And I just wanted to leave you with my details, should it be of interest to contact me after this. Thanks so much.
Martina, thank you so much for that introduction. Can I ask, was that Hans Olof on the last picture? It looks...
Oh, indeed. It's all about being a pioneer and being out there. Yes, yes.
That's a badass picture. That really is.
Well, he's badass in a good way.
Absolutely. I remember meeting him at Hannover a couple of years ago when he told me what RE8760 stood for, and I had to kind of bump myself on the head and say, of course, RE8760 stands for renewable energy all year round.
Yep.
Another thing really I found interesting was iterate, iterate, iterate. We have a similar mentality here at Naptre. You know, we're coming out with the new generations of products every year almost, with ultimate goal to mass production. We'll come back to this topic. I've noted down some things for your presentation I'd like to bring up later again. I will now invite...
sorry, shortest question. Martina, can you show your second slide? Maybe it was your business contacts. You switch very tough over the second slide, I think.
For the audience, I might say not to worry at all. We will share the presentations. We will share contacts from all of the participants later on. But in the interest of keeping to the schedule, let's move to our next partner from India, Siddharth Mayur, H2E. please feel free now to share your slides. And of course, we will have a lot of time to discuss topics in detail after the introductions.
Sure. Thank you, Rohit. I'm going to very quickly get into my presentation, and it's always a great pleasure to be part of an audience who understands hydrogen, who is interested in hydrogen as a subject. And Hannover, of course, always has been very close to us. We've participated there at various public forums in the past, and also as exhibitor a couple of years ago. I'm from India. My company is H2E Power.
May interrupt you just for a second. We're still looking at Martina's screen. So Martina, maybe if you want to stop sharing. Good, perfect. Now we're looking at your screen. So that, sorry for the interruption. Please go.
Thank you for that, Rohit.
Of course.
So H2E Power, this is a company that I founded way back in 2009. It was a time when nobody knew hydrogen other than our school books, where we know about hydrogen and electrolysis. And it's been a journey for us to bring this entire philosophy, the concept, and the ecosystem to India. And taking cue from what Martina said, that we have to come together and iterate. So we come with the philosophy of communicate, cultivate, and collaborate. And that's what has brought us so close to the entire hydrogen roadmap across the world. We are based out of Pune in India. We have a manufacturing base in Dresden in Germany, and also in Winterthur in Switzerland. So we work across the value chain of fuel cell and or electrolyzer business. The vision of our company is to provide 24/7 clean, green, affordable, and reliable energy to all. And this whole story started with the core idea of providing 24/7 energy to the farmers in India. If you know, India is an agrarian economy, and we have close to 118 million cultivators who are farmers owning land holdings less than 2 hectares. And most of them are energy starved. And because of that, most of them are underperforming. Most of them do not get to make ends meet. And a lot of them contemplate suicide. Unfortunately, few of them even execute and commit suicide themselves. So this was one of the key drivers why I started this company, why we got into this space. And while researching for technologies that could provide for the vision statement that I had, I came across fuel cells, and I came across hydrogen as technologies, which were 24/7, which were clean, green, reliable, and had an incredible opportunity to be affordable. And that's what started the whole journey into the hydrogen ecosystem. These are our current manufacturing facilities in India and also in Europe, where we do SOFC systems. These are more stationary systems. And now we are making electrolyzers. We are also integrating electrolyzers. On the right-hand side, you would see a small container box, which houses the Enapter electrolyzer, which I think is the first one in India. And to talk about actual usage, my office, my facility, all of our infrastructure is running on hydrogen, is running on fuel cells. So we have a complete hybrid system, which consists of electrolyzer, fuel cell, and a battery, which makes us off-grid. And we've been doing this for the last almost 3 years. So Martina, we are RE8760 times 3 already. Our plans going into the future, we are setting up a gigawatt scale facility, which is a big step that we are taking. We're building up almost 300,000 square feet of manufacturing facility for SOFC systems, and also to make electrolyzers in the future. The whole idea is to bring down the cost to a level where a common man can afford. And when I say common man, we are talking about common man in India, where the per capita income is very low, and cost becomes the driving factor. But at the same time, reliability is also a very big factor in India. Our technology portfolio, we work on SOFC technology, the planar as well as tubular. We are also integrating PEM systems into buses and three-wheeler auto rickshaws. And on the electrolyzer side, we work with SOEC for the megawatt scale electrolyzers, and with AEM for boutique electrolyzers, where we are trying to get into every home, get into small businesses, get into schools, hospitals, and so on and so forth. Our green hydrogen push, this is something, again, that's the Enapter box, which a lot of us have seen before. And we're doing some interesting projects. This is a project we're doing in the Nubra Valley in the Leh and Ladakh region in India, where we have sun shining for almost 12 hours in a day. And we are putting together electrolyzer along with the SOFC. So this is an integration which I think we are trying to do for the first time. Using hydrogen with a PEM system is probably very well known or popular also. But with the SOFC, providing a combined heat and power solution, we have a 1.5 kilowatt SOFC, which is a commercial product which we use for space heating in the European market. And we've done trials with the Enapter electrolyzer in Leh region already. And I think by August or September this year, we should have at least 2 or 3 houses which will be completely off-grid, completely energy independent, and they would have their own source of heating. And the Leh region goes to almost -30. So it is very similar to what the Nordic countries go through, or some parts of Europe also. Other than the electrolyzer, our focus is also on the SOFC systems, where we work on small systems from 200 watt going up to megawatt scale. And we are specifically focused on developing SOFCs that run on multiple fuels, whether it is methanol, ethanol, diesel, or we get into gaseous, biogas, biomethane, natural gas, and also hydrogen. The key to the work that we are doing, we all, of course, everybody is suffering from the same pandemic, the COVID, and we are able to wear our masks, sit indoors, probably get vaccinated if we are lucky. But if you look at the overall approach of the earth that we are living in, we are suffering from something which is even worse than the pandemic of COVID. And that's where I come to my the key philosophy of communicate, cultivate, and collaborate, is where we are trying to bring together different technologies. We are trying to bring all different partners together, integrate a solution that can be the vaccine for the whole climate crisis we are facing. Mind you all, if there is a climate crisis, for sure, we will not be able to save ourselves come what may. So the time is right. The time is appropriate now for us all to come together and vaccinate Mother Earth, because we do not have a planet B. We only have planet A to live. We still have years to go before we can find life at Mars or Jupiter or wherever. So this is the cornerstone of the work that we do, and that's what has brought us in collaboration even with Enapter. And the way we are trying to take this to market, unlike markets in Europe, the Indian market is incredibly large, though it is a very price-sensitive market. H2E, along with Fraunhofer Institute in Germany and also IIT in Mumbai, we have developed a training program, a training module, which is an 8-month module, and we are trying to build energy entrepreneurs in every village in India. We have 450,000 villages in India, and this year we are looking at 10 energy entrepreneurs, and by 2030 we are targeting 100,000 of these people who will become the energy providers and who will also become our ambassadors of the technologies, or ambassadors for the climate change vaccine. Bring technologies to the villagers, make every villager net zero, make every village net zero. Therefore, they'll be able to make the entire country net zero, make everyone prosperous through power. And this is one of the key inputs that H2E is bringing to the table to bring the whole hydrogen economy on a very, very mass scale, much bigger than anybody would have thought of in the world. And the hydrogen momentum definitely is picking up. I don't need to say what people are doing in Europe, but India is warming up to hydrogen in a very big way. We have the hydrogen mission already announced by the Indian government, where we are trying to do a lot of pilot projects on green hydrogen production, on fuel cell buses, even hydrogen from waste, because India has a huge stockpile of waste with the population of almost 1.3 billion and counting. Green hydrogen also for cement and steel industry. Very interestingly, we are looking at doing a pilot project with a very large steel company in India, where we will be using our electrolyzers to produce green hydrogen. And we are also looking at green ammonia production. On infrastructure side, India is looking at least 20 refueling stations in the next 18 to 20 months. We're looking at hydrogen hubs. We're looking at developing a hydrogen city itself. So there is a big push, and India is rapidly catching up with Europe, especially on hydrogen. So that's what we stand for. What you see is what I've written in Hindi, which says Swadeshi Urja Swavalambi Bharat, and the English translation means that unless you have energy which is independently made in India or made in the country that you are in, you cannot become a self-reliant nation. And that's how we have welcomed 2021 with our concept on climate change vaccine and partnerships across the world, trying to make this world a better place to live. Thank you very much.
Siddharth, thank you so much for that introduction to your company. Originally coming from India myself, I understand that it's a completely different market as compared to perhaps Europe. And some of the goals you outlined for yourself, of course, they align very well with ours as well. Mass production is the way to bring down the cost of green hydrogen. These are very ambitious goals. We'll look into that later in the discussion as well. Glad to see you are aligned with us very well on this. Ziad, I would kindly now ask you to bring in your presentation of HPS, and actually at the end of your presentation, we can move into the open discussion as well. So I'll put this question to you already. You're active in Germany, so perhaps at the end of your presentation, why don't you tell us a little bit about the market outlook in Germany, where you're most active? But please start with your introduction.
Yeah, I will for sure do that. And it's amazing to hear also the other companies speaking today, because I think we have a synergy there. The challenge that mankind is facing is so great that it can be only mastered together. And with the effort of all countries and all companies tackling this issue. I will take the opportunity to say also a warm welcome from my side, and of course, thanks to Apta for the invitation. It's great to be with you and to have the opportunity to introduce HPS and our product. So for myself, my name is Ziad Abul Ella, and I'm founder and general manager of HPS. I founded the company together with Henrik in 2014, even though the development of our solution and the knowledge that we build up in the technology is even older than the company is. And in 2020, in August, we strengthened our team with Yevgeny as a CFO for all the issues that we have in front of us. I really want to say that we're very proud of our team, which is extremely motivated and skilled, and now over 100 people working at HPS and working to end they're working to end the use of fossil fuels for home power supply. That's what drives them every day to come to work. So our product PCARE is to provide the world's first energy storage system for private households with 100 times the capacity compared to actual home batteries. And this based on green hydrogen for an all-year energy supply only from the PV from the own roof. So 365 days a year, even in winter, 100% emission and carbon free. Our energy is 100% independent, renewable, and transparent, as said. So also leading to a long-term financial security for our customers, which is another issue why they look at energy. Our offering is a compact all-in-one solution. So all necessary components are included, enabling the dream of independent and clean energy supply from one provider with one guarantee and one service. And we face that the market it's often a hurdle for the people if they're heading for a really clean energy solution, is the complexity of the possible components and the integration and the management that has to be set up. So I think that this is also an asset for itself to make it easy for the partners and the customers. And if we're talking about the partners which we want to share PIKEA with to bring it to the market, PIKEA has standard interfaces and a modular plug-and-play approach to enable these partnerships with existing installation companies, because you do not need to make a study for hydrogen technology to handle PIKEA. And a scalable product and business model, also including our partnerships, enables us to really have an impact on this world. So this comes all out of one hand, and our solution is offered including a service and maintenance contract and a 10-year lifetime product guarantee. When we look a little bit ahead into our vision is to provide in the end all forms of energy for your everyday life, which means electricity, heat, and mobility, completely emission-free, only from the sun. Already today, with our first generation, in addition to the electricity supply of the whole household demand, we can already support the charging of an electrical vehicle at home, and we already reduce the heating costs. So it's really a combined power and heat machine. To say it a little bit abstract, we use the power to gas, in our case, to power and heat technology, in a decentralized approach for every single house to enable the energy transition today for everyone. This is, again, I think, a synergy taking everyone with us on this path, stating that we can only achieve it together. And this already is reality today. What you see here is customers from us. The first houses in really different regions of Germany are supplied by PIKEA since 2017. And we are pleased to have really satisfied and proud homeowners who have all become the greatest ambassadors for a carbon-free energy supply themselves. The house on the very left, I mean, of course, these are the house owners, is also already a house running now the third year, completely independent from the grid for electricity and heat. It's a new built house without any power connection to the outside and completely supplied carbon-free. It's actually the dream that we're heading for. If we're talking about scaling up, if we're talking about hardware, and I think all of the participants today will share that view, it's quite a task for a startup to get into a scale up producing hardware, and the issue of scaling up the manufacturing at highest quality is a reasonable one. So we were very proud in December last year. We have completed the transfer of our production line and started the fabrication with our partner Zollner, which is a great milestone in the development of our company I wanted to share with you today. With 11,800 employees and customers like Lufthansa, BMW, and Boeing, and HPS, Zollner is a strong partner, already today securing this manufacturing capacity for our ramp up. And this, when you look at the other customers of Zollner, at highest quality. Why are we doing all this? With PIKEA, we have a strong approach on our environment. If we look at one single PIKEA per single year, it saves the same amount of carbon as 130 trees, 35-meter high, bind in 1 year. One PIKEA is already out there. This is not our task. What we want to achieve is to roll out millions. And maybe, Rohit, I can then add up to your question about how we see the market size in Germany.
Please do.
Yeah. It's right. Formally, I end the presentation, and thank you for your attention for these short minutes. And I could directly pass over to your question if you want to.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go into an open discussion now. I was going to ask each of you this question anyway. So Ziad, sorry, I keep butchering.
No problem.
You go ahead, tell us how you see the market in Germany developing, and tell us if you have plans to expand outside of Germany at any point.
Yes, for sure. Also first of all, Germany is for us a very strong and good first market for our first entries. I mean, it's our home market, of course, but on the other hand, we have a very high awareness for ecological issues. We have quite a financial power with the people. We have a good funding situation. There are subsidies there, and we have a relatively high electricity price. In combination, this is a perfect setup for the entry of a new product. Of course, our goal is to reduce the costs so far that we can address nearly all the countries then on and on, coming on later. So Germany alone has about 100,000 new built houses each year. And we have existing houses in the 1 and 2 family sector of 18 million. So even taking a very small renovation rate in Germany alone, we see a market potential of 250,000 units per year. If you add to this the European countries, which in the first step will be the DACH region, Switzerland and Austria, and then the other Western European countries in the next step and further then growing, let's say only taking a look at the DACH region and some West European countries, the market, the total market sums up to 1.5 million units per year. And for us, this means a market size with taking a price of PK in the future into account of 37 billion euros, which is quite a strong market. And yes, we will start and we will reduce costs. And with reduction of costs, we can approach countries which lower energy prices than, for example, Denmark or Germany has today.
Mm-hmm. Actually, at this point, then I'd also like to bring in Martina on this question. So Sweden, of course, also a European country, but has a slightly different landscape, I assume, when it comes to the market and electricity prices, which seems to be one of the key players. Martina, why don't you give us a...
Yeah, indeed. And I'd like to underline what is happening in Sweden is we may have been late starters, but it's a massive approach, not least with the green steel. That's being addressed. So every day there's a huge discussion about how can we scale up renewable energy as fast as anything, not least in the northern part of Sweden, where most of the energy production is taking place today. So for us, being all electric, if you like, it's more a case of, and that's what we are addressing. How can decentralized system solutions be relevant, adding to the current infrastructure, adding to the current grid, because you do not bring new grid solutions, you don't scale up them in a heartbeat. It's a massive investment. So I'd say that we have a different perspective, but our approach has always been the global one. So we worked in a triangle between India and Australia, trying to really connect and making it so obvious that we all share the same challenges, because there are situations, and thank you, Mr. Major, for underlining that. There are so many places in the world where the grid is poor or absent, where we need to bring in decentralized production, and it's also a matter of equality. And having what we are seeing, not least in my country, but in the Nordic countries as well, is that there is a shift between who is the energy producer and who's the energy consumer. And how can we be creative to make out new business logic? And I think that's very healthy. I think that's extremely healthy. So I'm foreseeing, and that's one of the reasons why we've been so dedicated to work with container-based situations, about that you need to have flexibility. You need to be able to move, scale up, scale down, and have a second market already in place when you are approaching your first customer. Think outside of and think long term. So that will be the strategy for Nilsson Energy moving forward. And we can't do this without having a strong partnership, people with the same mindset. And again, I'm coming back to this, but I think it is important. We need to be long term. We need to be able to think outside of the quarterly stock market logic. That's key.
Absolutely. I think all of us here have to take a long-term perspective. The quarterly reports and the quarterly outlooks is not what's driving the market right now.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned, and I know this from conversations with other Nilsson colleagues as well, you are active in Sweden, but also to some extent in India and Australia. Maybe you can draw a contrast between what what you're seeing in these different markets?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to meet up with two guys who are very long term, Mr. Ravi Merchandani and his colleague Craig Erkey. Craig being situated in Australia, and Ravin very close to you, Siddharth, in Pune. So we have been working in a partnership all along. From nearly from day one, and we're happy to announce that we'll be assisting Sky Energy, who is the partner in Australia, with a product in this coming year. Mm-hmm. So and that will be container based, again for the ability to move quickly and not being limited by the fact that you need to bring in knowledge and you need to train people. We need to think globally also in this. And this assembly that we're having today, it's an excellent example of we can share knowledge. We haven't met. We're not in the same physical plane, but we are co-working and we are educating each other. So I have a background from IT as well, and I foresee AI and remote training and all of these kind of methods being extremely valid. So for anybody who is sort of on board there, please reach out because it's going to be key.
Absolutely, and the world is changing. Remote,
indeed,
more and more relevant every day.
Yeah,
systems, all of our solutions here are becoming more and more relevant every day. I'd like to loop in Siddharth here again to give a bit of an outlook on the Indian market. It is very different from the European market. You mentioned per capita income before, Siddharth. I know this plays a role in how products can be rolled out. You have a very ambitious goal of putting products into almost every home in every village. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you see that challenge and how you hope to address that in the coming months and years?
Thank you, Rohit. I think India is a very interesting and a typical market where the price rules no matter what, because of course people do not have the money. But another reason people do not have the money is the abject energy poverty. So if you look at the per capita energy consumption in urban India, it is 2 kilowatt hour per capita. In rural India, it is 0.6 kWh. As compared to the world average of 5 or 6 kWh, which is significant because that is what talks about the progress that the country is making on industrial scale or even on commercial scale. And India is fast moving from the 2 kWh to almost 4 kWh on a global level, so including rural as well as urban. So we are seeing almost threefold increase in the demand for energy. And this is definitely not going to come from coal, and solar has its own limitations. So does wind. That's where this entire approach of the fuel cell and the hydrogen story comes in. Now, getting into market, the rural market always is a difficult market, and they never can pay the money for what they buy because they are always hand to mouth. They do not have money to even make ends meet. Mm-hmm. We've chosen that market. Now that market is almost about 600 million people, and it's incredibly large. So what we are doing is we are working on very interesting financial models. We are working with microfinance companies. We are working with rural banks. And the best part about the rural businesses is that the people there are extremely honest. You will find very limited defaults amongst rural customers. You'll find a lot of defaults in urban customers because they're all intelligent people looking at intelligent ways to find loopholes in the system. So for a system like what we're developing for a farmer, very similar to what Ziad and HPS has made, which is a hybrid system, and we should talk and see how we can collaborate on that. But this system will go to a farmer for a monthly payment of 200 Indian rupees, which is close to about €2 in total. So that is what the farmer would pay every month to own this system, to run this system. And that is something we have on the back end with a finance company. Fortunately, we are backed up very well. One of the largest vaccine companies in the world is an investor with us. company called Serum Institute. They are the largest COVID vaccine makers as well. And they have a big interest in the microfinance market. So with them, we are designing specific financial structures by which we can take this to the masses. Now, we have an immediate access to almost 9.5 million farmers who can be our ready customers. And one of our partner companies already supplies a lot of irrigation systems to them. So we're trying to take it bottoms up. We're trying to go to the toughest market segment, but this is a market segment where there can be a big impact, a significant impact, not only on their life and livelihood, but also on emissions, also on the level of imports that India does as a country. So this can be a major revolution. After the big green revolution in agriculture, this will be the big green revolution in energy that will come.
So that's really interesting, because it looks like in the Indian market, it's not just technology that needs to be developed, but financial models that make that technology accessible in that market to those kind of clients. It's very interesting to see what you're doing on that end.
Can I add something to Siddharth's? Let me just underline, Siddharth, I think it's so inspirational to hear about this entrepreneurial scheme, because something that we haven't addressed, even though very briefly, we are dealing with, in some instances, compressed gas. So we need to educate. It's extremely important to educate, because what we cannot afford are things to develop in a very unfortunate way, with accidents and incidents that. So having that movement of, and again, that's why I underlined action speaks louder than words. We need us that do have the knowledge and have the experience. We need to be that transparent, and we need to reach out in that way, because again, we are addressing a shift of technology, and that's never easy. It's never easy, and it's never going to be a black and white situation. And again, why I think this is so important, that we all take on that responsibility. And within the European Commission, where I'm currently sitting at the table, or the round table underneath the European Clean Hydrogen Alliance, that's one of the key things, addressing what's the bottleneck, and what are the thresholds that need to be addressed. Mm-hmm. So that will always be my reasoning, always.
It's interesting you say that. Sorry, it's interesting, Martina, you say that, and you've hit the nail on the head. That's what we are doing with our Energy Entrepreneur Program. So it's going to be a 8-month training on various technologies, so that then they will be able to help the people. And we are also going into schools at a cluster of village level, where we will be providing education to these farmers also, and even the rural utilities. So this is going to be important, because we are going into a shift. We are going into an entire transition. So they need to educate it as well. So it's a very important point.
Let me extend, I'm a very practical person. Let me extend an invitation to have a cooperation with the preschool that we're currently building, because that's just that what we're doing as well. Starting with this municipality is starting with the youngest one, because if they know that you in Sweden, where the sun virtually doesn't shine, where you can live independently on solar in Sweden, and the only residual that you will have is clean water, then there's hope for the next generation. So I'm sure that the municipality will be happy to have that kind of exchange, and that's already been taking place with Australia prior to this. So do keep in touch. Happy to make that connection.
Let's bring back Sebastian here to give it a perspective as well. So we already have a question in the chat box here. It's related to return of investments. So Ziad, why don't you tell us a little bit about how your products are, or how you plan to make your products, let's say, commercially viable in a tough market like Germany?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as a first of all, right now, with the subsidies existing, we already achieve payback times which are around 20 years, which is not a very small number, of course. And our goal is to have an offering without any subsidies, reaching payback times which are clearly underneath 10 years. And we believe if we achieve that, then we can, first of all, address everyone. That does not mean that everyone buys a house, but we can address everyone, because then it's a very reasonable decision. It gives you financial security for the future. If we look at it today and understand that we're talking about the first 100 units produced in Germany and rolled out, of course, any new technology in the beginning is more expensive than an existing one, which has already been rolled out in thousands of pieces, like all the technology using fossil fuels, for example. On the other hand, all new technologies has shown how it works. If the innovators and the people that want to change the world go into it, we start the motor of cost reduction, and having, for example, such a strong partner as Zollner is already showing our clear path to scale the product and then to reduce the costs, and our planning, our business planning foresees that all cost reductions are then given to the market to enable more and more people to participate, because I think we have all the same dream. We have some issues that we had to tackle in Germany. Of course, the standards are very high. The security issues, as Martina also mentioned, are very high, and we did a lot of research there and were able to produce a closed product with a completely safety structure, with meeting all regulations in Europe, and which you can simply just build up without any authority permission, which would be a hurdle to scale into the market. And I strongly believe that as the industrial nations have a stronger financial power today, it is very reasonable to start here. And of course, all the world will benefit from this investment, because building up an industry, reducing the costs will open up the usage for everyone. And it's just fair that we do these investments in Western Europe, for example. Because in the past we were using fossil fuels and taking the benefits from that, and now we have to make a shift.
Yeah. In your presentations, you also mentioned a very strong focus will be on mass production. So actually, we can also second this statement. You know, the beginning is not the easy times.
Yeah.
The systems that you put out there are not going to be the ones that have the immediate return of investment. But what we're trying to tell here, I think all of us, is a story of how we get to the point
Yeah.
investment is viable.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So, okay, I can just tell you, if we have analyzed PICARE, of course, our product with all the bill of material, did an ABC analysis, then took design to cost approaches for the technology, and we already identified on a very practical level, very down to earth, the measurements where we will take out the costs of PICARE if we will be able to scale up the numbers. So that is not a theoretic approach, it's a very grounded approach. And then after we have done it, it's what's very interesting for us, we have looked at the cost reduction curves that were achieved in the past by other companies in the field of batteries, of fuel cells, of electrolyzers, of solar panels, and so on. So all relevant technology, heat pumps, which could be compared to us. And then we compared our bottom-up planning for cost reduction with the learning curves other companies realized in the world before us. And then we witnessed that we were quite conservative with our own approach, which was a very, very good verification for all the measurements that we want to take and that they will work like this. If we would take the learning curves of that other companies already realized in the past, we would even reduce the cost faster than in our planning. So I'm very, very secure that we will go this path successfully.
We're with you, and I'm sure our own manufacturing is going to play a role in that as well. I want to, you have about 10 minutes left. I really wish we had more, to be honest, from across the world. I want to do a quick fire question and answer round. So anybody in the audience, please feel free to put your question in there. We have some questions here. Just a couple-minute response from each of you. So Ziad, I'll start with you first. You mentioned that you have potential for 1.7 million. I think it was 1.7 million units, not euros. But
yeah.
So the question would be, when do you see this becoming a reality, and how are you working with your suppliers to make sure that that happens?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have to clarify a little bit, because 1.5 million units per year in West European countries was the total market size that we see today in our analysis. Of course, this is not the obtainable market for HPS. We will never have 100% of the market share there. That's of course for sure. So we will step into the market right now over innovators and adding up to early adopters, which is together 16% of the market, and which is a market segment with, in the beginning of a new product, really highlights the USPs, which is the independency to be carbon free, to make a personal impact on the energy shift and the reduction of carbon. And from there on, if we reduce the cost, we take it into the majority of the market. So this is a process over time. I just wanted to clarify. Other than that, Inapter plays a very important role for us. We believe that your technology, electrolyzer technology, is ahead of the market. It has, in our understanding, looking into the future, the best cost potentials for cost reduction. And we're really happy to see the efforts that you have done and that you're planning to build up a mass manufacturing, because the scaling of our product always also means that ours, the companies that we purchase parts from, of course, have to go through the same scaling as we are. Yeah. And so, but you know that our plannings are very aligned on a business level. So I'm just very happy to see how you're coming forward, and that you're investing in the production is a very important factor also for us.
Well, as they say, you know, great minds think alike, and I think all of our very aligned strategy. Martina, why don't you go next? Tell us how you're managing your rollout plans and how you see your suppliers supporting you there.
I think that what really sets us apart is the fact that we have the full value chain approach. We understand what it's like to design, but also develop and make sure that things work out into the reality, and also overarching service and maintenance. That will be our contribution initially. We're hiring people. Now it's extremely important to have the right long-term people on board so that we can reach out and cater to all the questions that have been put to us, and all the different opportunities, because we have been small. So scaling obviously is going to be crucial. Can I just address, Mr. Hiller had a question there that might be relevant. He's asking about the decentralized solution and its logic when there are centralized solutions in countries, areas that have working grid and systems are existing. My answer to that will be depending on a number of different factors. What does the central solutions and grid or pipelines, how are they constructed, and what are their characteristics? Is it natural gas, or is it other means of production? And I don't, for me, it's never a black and white situation. I think I approached that earlier. It is adding to, it's not deducting from. If there is a centralized system in place that works, and that's fine, that's super. But when we are scaling, and we see that from the level of robustness and the resilience, there are other factors at play. A centralized system can be very, very vulnerable. And that brings me back to the IT logic that I talked about earlier as well. So depending on what your initiatives are and what you're trying to safeguard, it might be very relevant to have decentralized production. Maybe not from a money now perspective, but from a long-term, how do we build resilient infrastructure and countries and logic? That will be my answer, because I think it is a very valid question. So I wanted to address that, Mr. Miller.
I would like to add an information if possible, because I think you're addressing a very relevant point there, Bettina. And one fact is also that when we look at the power grid that we have today, which is a symbol for a centralized power supply, we see that on the one hand, the implementation of more and more renewables is putting a pressure to this grid structure, which is very old. On the other hand, the two massive sectors of heat and mobility are both additionally transferred to the power grid, because the heat is more and more produced by heat pumps, which does not mean anything else than we're putting all these energy that is needed there onto the electrical side. And of course, more and more electrical vehicles are being rolled out. So the whole mobility energy, which is today which we fill up at the gas station, the gasoline, is being partly shifted onto the power grid. And this is a burden to the power grid, and it puts a risk on it. And additionally, it produces the need of high investments into the power grid, which in the end then are laid on all the people, because the electricity prices still will rise in the future. And going into a decentralized setup, we cannot solve completely the task, but we can very strongly help to reduce the efforts that have to be made on that side, because electricity is produced and used at site, so it does not put an additional burden onto the grid while these processes are running.
And sorry, but in addition to that, if you have a system solution that can provide you with electricity, heat, oxygen, and/or mobility, and/or the security of data, because you can close down the system, it doesn't have to be up into the cloud. There are other reasons for addressing that than the obvious. We're dealing with energy provision. So I really like to add that perspective, because that's our reality.
This is actually a very interesting point about hydrogen. So it's not just an energy carrier, it's a molecule that can be used in different applications. Hydrogen is new. I think this perspective is missing a little bit. People look at individual applications of hydrogen and ask the question if it's a viable solution. You have to really consider and put it in the context of the fact that hydrogen can be an economy. That's of course a backbone.
Here.
There's 2 minutes left. I want to bring in Siddharth here to give the last closing statements. This question, myself coming from India, is always in my mind as well. How do you see the Indian market playing out over the next years? It is a tough market. I think we know that. Some of the things you've mentioned are very ambitious. So I'll give you the last word, Siddharth. Please tell us how you think this is going to play out in the next years.
Definitely, India is a tough market, but I think the way the whole energy story is happening in India, I see India leapfrogging into the entire hydrogen economy or the hydrogen story. And when I say hydrogen, it is not just restricting it to hydrogen. We are talking about either ammonia, methanol, and getting into the entire process, whether it is for industry, whether it is for residential, or even for mobility segments. And India can surprise the world. And I always say this to the policymakers, and somebody made a comment here that why aren't we talking to or educating the government, which by the way is the most difficult job in the world. But we've been trying to do that quite a bit in India. And fortunately, the government is talking the same language as the industry is. So I have made a paper for the Indian government, which says that by 2035, India can be electrostate, a net exporter of energy. Today, we import energy. Our energy import bill is $80 billion US. So by 2035, we can be a net exporter. So that is the potential. And I see great value to the things we are doing in India. The government is ready, the industry is ready, and the most important part, the customer is ready. So they're ready to try out new things. And if you see what happened to India in the mobility, in the telecommunication space, we jumped directly to digital, and today we are the largest market. So price is going to be the key. I always tell my team that we have to sell a fuel cell for $200 US system wise. That's the target. That's where we have to reach. So we are putting together the entire supply chain ecosystem to see how we can achieve that. So it's interesting times and very exciting.
I think if I have to really sum this up, and I hate to sum it up because this is the most all week, ambition. We all have strong goals and we have a very strong focus, and we're not letting, let's say, don't know how else to put it, but the naysayers hold us back. I can conclude with that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so sorry it has to come to an end. We will be sharing the presentations. We will be sharing the contact details of everybody on the panel here. To the audience, thank you so much for joining us. With this,
thank you so much. Stay safe all.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Stay
Goodbye.
safe, stay healthy, all of you.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye to everyone.